So we're going to start off talking about probability by talking about probability distributions. Now I'm going to talk about it in general, and then we're going to do a couple of problems. Now, what's going to happen is you're going to put your event, your x, your scenario, your independent variable, whatever you want to call it, is going to be up top, and all of your probabilities are going to be here on bottom. Now, a couple of really important things that you need to understand. All the probabilities in this table, the P1, P2, P3, plus all the probabilities there, must always equal to 1, okay? Very important that you understand that. And if I want to find the probability of, say, this x1, well, that's P1. The probability of this x2, that's P2, and so forth. Now, a lot of times, they don't give you the probability straight out. They may give you a frequency. So sometimes you need to make your own probability distribution based on the frequencies that they give you. So let's take a look at this problem really quickly. Number 1 says that the number of grades for a group of students is given by the following table. So you have A, B, C, D, E, F, or just A, B, C, D, E, F. And then you have the frequency, the total number of students who got each grade. Okay? If the student from this is selected at random, what is the probability the student made part 1 an A, or in part B just an A or a B? Now, before we can do this, before we can find a probability, we actually need to make this into a probability distribution. Okay? Now, how are we going to do that? Well, let's think about this. Let's pretend, just for a second, okay, we're going to go off topic just for a second. Let's pretend you had 100 students, okay? There's 100 students in your class, and 95% of them are right-handed. Well, if 95% of them are right-handed, what's the probability that they're right-handed? You would say 95 over 100, which is 0.95. In essence, you took your total amount on bottom, and then your specific event, whatever you're looking for on top. And that's what I'm going to do here. They gave me a frequency. They told me how many got each grade, but they didn't tell me the total. You first need to find the total amount, and then take your frequency and divide it by that total amount to remake that chart, or this table. And once you remake the table, then you can answer whatever questions you have. So, let's remake this table. You're going to have A, B, C, D, or F. Let's see what goes under each for my probability. Now, before I can even find the probability, I got to find the total. I got to see what this on bottom adds up to. So if we go 40 plus 84 plus 71 plus 38 plus 31, this is equal to 264. So your total amount is 264. Therefore, the probability of A is 40 over 264. B would be 84 over 264. C would be 71 over 264. D would be 38 over 264. And then F would be 31 over 264. And now what you have, a probability distribution. And now that I have a probability distribution, now I can go ahead and answer the questions. Let's take a look at part A. Part A, what is the probability that the student made an A? Well, the probability the student made an A, so the probability that he made an A, if I want to find the probability of anything, just look at the probability underneath. So it'd be 40 over 264. Let's see, 40 over 264, which if you put that in our calculator, so 40 divided by 264, you get roughly we'll call it 0.15. It's about 0.15, okay? And then for part B, what is the probability that he got an A or B? Okay, well, based on the formula we've been using for the entire semester, whenever you see or, a union, this is the probability of A plus the probability of B minus the probability of A intersect B. But guess what? The probability of the intersection, is it possible to make an A and a B in the same class? Well, usually, no. So you're just going to do the probability of A plus the probability of B. So what we're going to get is 40 over 264 plus 84 over 264, which is equal to 124 over 264, which let's go ahead and put that into our calculator. So 124 over 264, and let's call it 0.47. 0.47. So hopefully this answers the basics of probability distributions. And now let's go ahead and do another example. Yep. Let's go ahead and take a look at this second example. And the second example is use this probability distribution and the events to answer the following questions. So notice how I've already got a probability distribution almost fully made. Notice what's missing. This little f is missing. I didn't give it to you, and sometimes it's a real popular problem to go ahead and what is a probability of that little f? Well, before I even begin, one thing that I always like to do, before I even begin to answer the questions, is to go ahead and complete my probability distribution. That way I can just go ahead and go through it. So, what did I say earlier about all the probabilities on bottom? All the probabilities on bottom need to equal 1. So, let's add up and see what all of these guys equal to, the A through E. So A through E, if I do the 0.15 plus 0.08 plus 0.21 plus 0.25, let's see what we get when we put that in the calculator. So 0.15 plus 0.08 plus 0.21 plus 0.25. I missed a plus 0.12. Right, so you have the 0.15, 0.08, 0.21, 0.12, 0.12. We get 0.81. Okay? And notice how it does not add up to 1. So what should I put into here? F, the probability of F would just be 1 minus 0.81, which is 0.19. Now that I have it complete, now I can go ahead and now answer a couple of the questions. Now notice my set E is going to be the little letters A, C, D, E. My set F is going to be B, D, F. And then my set G is going to be A, B, D. So let's take a look at part A. Part A, what is the probability of S? And S is my sample space. The probability of your sample space, all of it combined, better be 1. Okay? It's going to be 1. Okay, but what's the probability of the empty set? Well, go back to sets. What is the empty set? The empty set is just a set with nothing in it. So if there's nothing in it, the probability of that's going to be 0. Let's take a look at the next one. What is the probability of F? Well, if you want the probability of anything, the probability of F is just going to be the probability underneath it, which we found earlier to be 0.19. Okay, part B. What is the probability of E? Okay, of the set E. Not lowercase e. What's the probability of the set E? The probability of the set E, if the set E is A, C, D, E, what you're going to do is add up all the probabilities of A, C, D, and E. So the probability of A is 0.15, plus the probability of C is 0.21, plus the probability of D, 0.12, plus the probability of E, 0.25. And so, adding all of these together, if I do 0.15 plus 0.21 plus 0.12 plus 0.25, you get 0.73. And then as for C, what is the probability of E complement? You have two options. One, you can find E complement and then add that up. Or what I suggest, pay attention to this because we're going to be using this throughout, the probability of E complement, that's just not E. So, what you can say then is this is equal to 1 minus the probability of E. In essence, this is going back to the whole situation of every possibility minus what I don't want. Okay? What I do want is E complement. It's not an E. So what I don't want is what's in E. Okay, it's a 0.73. And all possibilities, adding up all the possibilities, it's always going to come out to 1. Keep this in mind because we're going to be using this throughout the next several videos. But this is going to be 1 minus 0.73, which is simply just 0.27.